Hi, guys. Welcome to Real Food Recovery. How's it going, Jamie?
Going okay, going okay. Glad to be here.
Good. I'm excited about this topic. So, we want to say welcome to everyone listening. And this is a place where we explore what it really takes to heal from the effects of ultra processed food. And today we're diving into a really big question, several questions. Can we think our way out of a craving? Can we think our way through recovery? And is it possible to think your way into systems that will breed success even with ultra processed food?
Yeah, we're looking at this topic because we hear this a lot. We hear that just use willpower or
Right.
matter kind of comments. But is that really true when it comes to this ultra processed food use disorders and what in it and eating disorders in general, right? So
Right.
what role and minds does mindset play in our healing?
Yeah, I love this too because this is very crucial on our journey. So, today we're going to explore the science of how our thoughts influence our cravings and recovery. So, I want to start with neuroscience because I'm a nerd that way. And I think it really helps us understand what's going on and why our body is doing what it's doing. So, to start with, it's helpful to know that cravings aren't just random. When we consume ultra processed foods regularly, our brain's reward system, especially the dopamine pathways, they get hijacked. That means our cravings are literally embedded in our neural circuitry, which
Yes.
which isn't that fun? Aren't you happy about that? Which means it's not just about food being tasty, it's about how these ultra processed foods bypass normal satiety signals and create these unnatural pleasure spikes, all of which makes me so mad because these foods were created without our understanding of how this would impact us long term. So, Jamie, I don't know if you think it's fair to say that cravings, especially for ultra processed foods, are more about I want to say manipulation rather than hunger. Or do you get mad? Do you have emotions around that too?
Um, Not necessarily. I mean, I once I understood how the chemicals were affecting me, it was honestly it was a relief in a lot of ways because I just didn't, like it took me off, let me off the hook. Um,
I like that.
and I don't waste. I waste plenty of time on things I can't control, but that is not something I waste time on to get resentful about.
Yeah.
Um, I'm in a season of life where those foods are back in my life, unfortunately, for lots of reasons. So I just, do my best with it, and I'm mindful about how they're engineered and mindful about what they're doing to my craving centers, and I just kind of um let that be. And if I feel shame about having some or craving it, I just I remind myself that it's engineered that way and just let myself off the hook.
I mean, it's just so hard, so hard. So when we try to think our way out of a craving, we're going up against a deeply conditioned neural loop, kind of what
Yes.
Jamie was just saying. But
Yes.
here's the hopeful part. Neuroplasticity is real for those of you that aren't familiar with that thought around the fact that our brains are plastic. Another way of saying that makes it sound easier is the brain can rewire itself. I don't know if you've ever seen this big ball of yarn representing our brain, but yes, the brain can literally rewire itself. And over time, our thoughts, our routines, and behaviors can reshape those cravings, and cognitive tools like mindfulness. For those of you that are familiar with CBT, it's cognitive behavioral therapy, things like that, and even simple awareness practices can change how we respond in the moment of a craving.
Yes.
Jamie, you've obviously had great success to accomplish all you have in your journey. So there must have been a shift somewhere in your life that occurred in your thinking. Do you want to tell us of a moment when a craving hit hard, but you responded differently than you would have in your past life before you started recovery? And maybe for those listening, if there's anything that helped you shift that thinking or reaction when cravings came on?
Um, just being being gentle with myself, being accepting of myself, not beating myself up for it. And that took a long time to get there, but um, understanding that I don't have all the answers in that moment, but I just need to either find something that mimics that food, in a much healthier format, which is pretty easy to do these days.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with social media. I mean, honestly, it's gotten so much easier to find alternative foods that will scratch the itch without really harming us. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I just focus on the things that I do have available to me and the things that I can control. And like, again, I'm in a season now where I'm those foods are serving a purpose for me at this stage of comfort. And I used to, I would have, said I would have gone against that with every fiber of my being before, but now I'm in a place where I'm seeing that um that's not the be all and end all of my existence. And I can still be a whole, worthy, deserving person, even with those foods kind of serving at that comfort purpose right now. And I'm noticing that I'm noticing to stop while I'm eating them and ask, is this really scratching an itch? And if not, why am I still eating it? And then
Mm-hmm.
also, if it did scratch an itch, how do I feel after? How do I feel after? And if I'm not feeling, um, if something is hurting, or if my joints are hurting, or if brain fog or whatever, which can happen, then
Mm-hmm.
I just don't have that food anymore. So it's more of a, I don't know, a reconnection to, if I'm going to be back in that comfort seeking behavior using those foods. And there's again many reasons that I'm doing that for major life changes going on around me. I need to at least be honest with myself about the effects of the food, and be honest with myself about um, what it's doing for me and what it's not doing for me. So that would be my advice to anyone who's still struggling without having major trauma going on in their life.
I love your point about just being honest with yourself and not like sweeping it under the carpet, like, oh, this is okay. This is just for a time. No problems. There's absolutely no ill effect, and I'll worry about it later. But I really appreciate that, I guess, honest answer about being honest about all the aspects around
Mhm.
it. So thank you for sharing that. For me, it was a crazy awakening after that first success that I had had when I realized I was so much more powerful than I ever gave myself credit. I honestly didn't know it was in me. And I also think you have to really want it and be willing to give up the drug and walk away. Because for decades, I was trying to quit it but at the same time keep it in my life without any consequences. I was trying so hard to keep it and get rid of it at the same time. So, let's face it, I really didn't want to give it up. I just didn't want to suffer. I guess I did want to give it up. No, I didn't want to give it up, but I also didn't want to have the after effects. I didn't want to pay the consequences. So I was trying to
Yes.
figure out how to have both. What's that saying? Feet on both
Every,
sides of the fence.
yep. Have your
Yeah.
cake and eat it too, no pun intended.
Yeah. So, and let's be real, I really never dreamed I could actually be successful at giving it up, even if I had wanted to. So, in reality, this makes me laugh. I was working harder on the negotiations than actual sobriety, which we've talked to Vera Tarman about this before, and she says
Mhm.
if you're in that negotiation place, it actually intensifies cravings versus just making a solid, hard decision of no, I'm not going to do that. It brings
The
the
bright line,
intense.
yeah.
Hmm. So
Yeah.
ultimately, making a firm decision that it had to go, that was the turning point for me, actually. And I think it almost has to be that first step for people to
Yes.
just make the decision, am I in or am I out? And that might have been the hardest hurdle for me, honestly, over cravings was making that hard decision. It was my mindset around it. And
Yeah.
I had to ask myself, are you really ready to give it up? And let's face it, this type of success doesn't happen in an instant. That can be a trap for us, that it's the
Mhm.
tricky
Yeah,
part.
I think it's a light switch. It's not.
That, yes, yes. And people think if it doesn't work on day one, that it'll never work. But this is the long game we're playing when it comes to healing and recovering and rewiring these neural pathways.
Mhm.
What motivated you initially to take that first step towards change? Were you trying to do what I was doing, like get rid of your cake and eat it too at the same time? Or once
Oh
you
yeah, because I
did,
had a binge and restrict cycle for a few years. I had a binge and restrict
oh, I
cycle.
didn't. Oh, okay, I
Oh
did
yeah,
not.
from
Nope.
20, gosh, probably 2013, 14, all the way through 2020.
So, what
So,
pulled you out of that to say, okay, I need to
um,
get this out?
learning about the effects of ultra processed foods on my body and brain. Learning about how how good I could feel when I didn't have them in my life. And at the
Hmm.
time, I was able to replace them with, I was doing my plant-based, whole food plant-based life. So it was actually very easy for me to find alternatives to ultra processed foods because I was sort of, I was able to, the foods that I was eating were,
High carb.
yeah, they were calorie dense, high carb foods.
Hmm.
So it was almost easy,
Oh,
that transition. Easier than I anticipated, but I had already been eating very clean foods for a very long time. Do you know what I mean?
hmm.
And I had already been eating clean 6.5 days of the week. So the clean part wasn't the issue back then. It
We're
was,
into fractions now.
yeah, exactly. It was, the clean part wasn't the issue. It was more just like coming cold turkey, not cold turkey, but coming completely off of them.
Hmm. You know, it freaks me out that I am hearing more and more about with the whole ultra processed food is the inflammation on a cellular level. And
Mm.
I heard this cancer doctor talking about that it's almost impossible, nearly impossible for you to ever get cancer if you do not have inflammation within the cell. And that the ultra processed foods are what generate the inflammation in the cell and cause so many
Oh,
other
and
diseases.
stress and environmental toxins. I mean, there's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of things that cause inflammation in the cells,
Mm-hmm.
but ultra processed foods definitely contribute for sure.
Right, major contributor. So I want to shift gears slightly and thinking back to when you first started in the early stages of recovery, Jamie, were you able to think your way through cravings, or what tools did you use in the beginning, since we're talking about using our mind power, our brain power?
Replacement. Oh no, I didn't rely on that. Willpower is finite, so it was
Mm-hmm.
replacements. Swaps.
Yeah.
Swaps or bulking up meals with other vegetables and other frozen vegetables or frozen fruits. That really helped me. That
Mm-hmm.
really helped me a lot.
Yeah. For me, it
And the
was.
environment too, by the way. Cleaning my environment.
Oh my gosh, I know, right? Like we just had
Mhm.
company and it was everywhere on the counters and just everywhere in my face. It's so hard. And I think about that a lot about young mothers that you're feeding other people inside in addition to yourself. I really take my hat off to them and give them a big round of applause for trying to swim upstream when you are, and that's what I was going to say. I recognize with these house guests with little kids, it's just constant food frenzy all the time. You're either eating, cleaning up, or eating again.
Yep.
So yeah, it's very, very difficult. So yes, your environment really can make or break you. So those of you that can control your environment, you are light years ahead of those that where you're responsible for others'
Yes.
nutrition as well. And for me, I realized it had to be in the planning. Jamie said swaps. For me, what helped me be the most successful in the beginning was the planning. I had to think through every move, and be prepared ahead of time. I had to think through what I was doing before, during, and after. I had to have a plan at all times. And that was, but that, don't freak out. That was the beginning. But remember how we were talking about neuroplasty and how our brain can rewire. So as I got further along in recovery, I had to do less of that intensive thinking because my identity and my habits had solidified so much that my brain was naturally like on my team. Like I was built, my body was a team member. I was having several more team members versus me fighting my body and my brain and my thinking all the time. We were at odds. I was trying to not fight the cravings, but I was eating the foods that was causing the cravings. So now that it's been, 4.5 years, this is more of just naturally who I am. And but I still do have to be aware of things besides sugar. Sugar is my number one drug of choice, but sugar is much less loud now, even almost quiet a lot of the time. Practice really helps. And it goes back to that saying that our beliefs form our identity form our behavior, and our behavior form our habits. So now it really is just part of who I am. And Jamie, I don't know about you, but have you ever used those craving conversations with yourself where you try to pause yourself when a craving comes up and question yourself like, what do I actually want right now? Am I
Mhm.
hungry? Am I lonely? Am I stressed? Even that like 10-second pause oftentimes can give people enough space to make a different choice. I mean, 10 seconds, I know that, I don't know if that sounds short or long, but it's enough of a break. But yeah, do you use those questions, that 10-second pause?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've used them in the past for sure.
Do you think they're useful?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
so too. I think so too, because don't you think it just kind of redirects that blood flow to the frontal lobe, that logic center that you're trying to
Yes.
think rationally?
Yes. Yes.
Speaking of using our noggin to think our way to success, since we have our online food addiction support community, I remember standing in my daughter's pantry one day and it is filled with all of my drugs of choice. So I shouldn't have been, when we were talking about environment, I shouldn't have been in there to begin with. Stay out of the pantry is what there should be a sign on the front of the door. But I remember invoking that 10-second pause and asking myself, how do I want to check in tomorrow morning with my support group? How do I want to show up? I was literally writing the end to my story that I was going to show up and tell the next morning. And I said, do you want to be the hero or the victim in how the story ends? And I literally got to choose how the story turns out. And that process was enough to snap me out of it. So staying in that future self thinking has been a saving grace. Plus, I
Hmm.
love our support group so much, and it's so vital to the recovery journey.
Hmm. Yes. I agree. And when really it's about redirecting, right? So a prime example of thinking our way through a craving, is really just understanding that they're just thoughts and you don't have to
Yeah.
buy into them and they're not going to last forever
Yes.
and go distract
Yeah.
yourself or, ask yourself what you really need in that moment, all those things.
Hmm. I know. I love your one-liner about change your location, change your location, change your location, change your location. And I think that attacks the brain in several different ways, not only the logical thinking, but what you're visually seeing, you're getting some movement in, and you're like moving away from that spot where the craving occurred.
Yes.
All those things helps your brain get on board.
Yes.
I don't know about those that are listening, but for those of you that are familiar with Byron Katie, her fans, she does a lot of great things. And I like her method of asking yourself, is it true that I really need this right now? Is it absolutely true? Who would I be without that thought? Those were game changing little tricks, activities for me to do with myself. Are you a big fan of her work? Do you
Yeah. Yeah.
implement her things?
Yes. Love her stuff.
Yeah, don't you think
Good stuff.
don't you think she's always spot on? I have just
Oh,
found
yeah.
her to always be spot on. And where she
Yes.
comes up with this stuff, I don't know if she's creating it herself or she heard it, but
No, she talks about it. It was through her own sort of mental break. She came up with this, and it
Oh,
saved her life back then. Yeah, it's
interesting.
really interesting. She's a fascinating woman.
Yeah, very powerful. You know, one more thing I'm working on is imagining that future self where I like to ask myself where thinking about myself 3 hours from now, where do I want to be? What do I want to be feeling? And the only problem with having that enough blood flow to the frontal lobe is thinking logically or futuristically in that deep craving moment. That can be a little bit difficult. The
Mhm.
majority of your blood flow has flooded that addiction center when
Yes.
you are having those dueling messages firing at the same time. So that
Mhm.
can be a little bit of a challenge. But again, it comes with practice. I think that your brain responds more efficiently the more we practice and hone these skills. And when we're in those moments, those addictive messages can be very loud and strong. Are you able to pull your thoughts to that logic, futuristic self when you're in those craving moments?
Um, yeah, I again, it's I need to get the blood flow going in a different direction, but yes, overall, I usually can.
What's been your trick with shifting the blood flow? I mean, that's a huge
Being
skill.
present, getting into my body and getting out of my head, just being present.
Yeah.
Yep, asking myself what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, what I'm touching. Those are ways to be present.
Yeah, I've heard that saying, be where your feet are. And I like
Yes.
that one.
Yes,
So,
that's
yes,
exactly right.
I love this discussion, and it's not just about willpower, it's about compassion, intention, and retraining our minds. So, I want to get a little more nerdy for a minute and talk about three different principles that research in cognitive neuroscience and psychology back up. And that is the first one is mindfulness-based intervention have been shown to reduce food cravings and binge eating by increasing awareness of triggers. So I
Mhm.
love that one so much. And the CBT that we talked about earlier, the cognitive behavioral therapy, it that method helps us replace unhelpful thoughts with more realistic ones. So it helps by challenging those automatic thoughts like I'll feel better if I eat this donut and replaces them with more realistic ones. And the
Yes.
last one is visualization and future self thinking, like we had mentioned. That's huge in recovery if you can stay in that future self spot. Honestly, I almost think that's the key to recovery. And when you do that, it actually activates that part of the brain that supports self control. So you think
Mhm.
about a toddler to adult. You know, toddlers, they have an emotion, they immediately throw the fit. And the hope is as we move out of that toddler phase, that's a hope that as adults we are not still acting as toddlers. But
Yes.
when you can stay in that future self and not cut off your nose to spite your face.
Yes. And studies on urge surfing and mindfulness techniques show that if we observe the craving like a wave, it peaks and fades in about 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
This gives us hope. I don't have to fight this forever, just ride it out.
Right.
And it's really key, right? So our thoughts can change our
Mm-hmm.
cravings, but not always by pushing them away. Sometimes we just have to
Mm-hmm.
allow them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you do that surfing? Does the 20-minute rule apply to you? Sometimes I think it lasts longer for me, but it will pass. What has been your
Uh,
experience with that?
in the past, yes. Yeah, sure. I'm not again, I'm in a different place these days, but um and I'm in a place where I learn to listen to my body and address what it needs and ask myself if it's comfort and what the comfort is providing. But when I'm in a less emotionally charged or emotionally depleted place, sure,
Mm-hmm.
I could surf it.
Mm-hmm. That brings up a great point about where we are mentally and the mental bandwidth and strength we have, because that will weave and wane in our life. And you do have to take that in consideration. And that is where the compassion part
Yes.
plays in. That if you're hanging on by a thread and doing the best you can, sometimes we revert to good, better, best
Hmm.
for the time being, knowing that, you know, my ultimate goal is to get to higher ground, but and I'm working on getting there right now.
Yes. Yes.
So for those listening, what does this actually look like in real life? And here are a few tools that we both love. The first one is the pause button, like we talked about. When a craving hits, pause for 60 seconds and ask, what am I really craving? And this, this may be the greatest challenge because that 60 seconds may feel like an eternity when those cravings are so intense at the beginning, because sometimes you think, I'm going to die unless I get the cookie.
Mhm. Um, the next thing I'd say is, keeping a journal, right? Writing down what you're
Mm-hmm.
thinking and feeling and wanting and why, and just, just get it out of your head onto a page.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. The next one is future self visualization. Picture yourself 3 hours after indulging versus 3 hours after walking away. And that has helped me before tremendously.
Yes. And then anchor phrases like this feeling is temporary, or I can have that food tomorrow, just not today, or, yeah, those are all very helpful.
I have you heard that saying, if it's a good idea now, it will be a good idea tomorrow?
Hmm.
I like that a
Yeah.
lot. The next one is body scan. Is this hunger, tension, fatigue? And just get curious about it. I love that approach about getting curious
Hmm.
um, and using that as a first emotion.
Yes, yes. And don't forget the power of community. And just, again, that's been my big takeaway is when I'm feeling any kind of intense emotion, especially if I feel like food is the solution to it. It's not, it's usually community is the solution to it.
Yeah, I mean, is food ever the solution to
No,
our emotions?
no, we wrote a whole book about it.
Huh, yeah. Which you can find on Amazon, Real Food Recovery. If food isn't the answer, what's the question? A little plug for that. So,
Yes.
okay, let's open up our mailbag today. We've got some amazing listener questions. And the first one is, what do I do if I catch myself eating before I even realized what I was doing? So, ironically, sadly, this literally happened to me the other day. I had finished a half a slice of my grandson's pizza and then asked myself, why did I do that? I wasn't even hungry. I had stopped by their house on the way home from work to drop something off. I had had my food for the day. I walked in, it was just sitting on his plate and he was gone playing. I knew he wouldn't be back. Why did I do that? Why did I just pick that up and eat that? And I think there was a hot dog on another plate that I thought, oh, I'll just take a bite of that. I don't know if it's food curious. I don't know what the problem is, but that is something that I really want to stop in my life. It was a very big wake up call and a reminder that I really do need to be aware at all times because I'm not healed. This is a journey. It does take a long time because I had a long time of getting to this place in the beginning. And especially when I already know I'm going into a place that I know there's going to be trigger foods, a lot of kids' foods around. So I just turned that, it really did upset me. It really threw me off balance. Why did I do? I mean, I really was searching, why did I do that? So I turned it into a learning opportunity to get that pit out of my gut that was being a companion with the pizza and the bite of hot dog. And I just wanted to thank myself for being willing to take a deeper look at it and make a plan for next time. So it's like we were talking about earlier, going to that place of compassion versus shame, judgment. Because it's that's no win. That
Mm-mm.
will get me nowhere. There's no progress
No.
in that. So if I want to get better, getting curious is going to help me be better than anything else.
Yeah. And the last listener question is, what if I think my way out of cravings all week and then binge on the weekend? I lived this life for a while. It honestly is a horrible feeling because you spend, five days trying to undo or mentally beating yourself up for what you did on your one half or, full day of being
Mm-hmm.
off plan. It's not worth it. It really is not worth it. It just
Mm-hmm.
sucks the joy out of 5 or 6 days a week.
And your stomach hurts so bad after.
Mhm.
Everything hurts.
Yeah, everything hurt.
Everything.
Yeah, everything
Yeah.
hurts. I would retain so much water and it feel so bloated and it wasn't worth
Mm-hmm.
it. So if you take away one thing from today, know that your thoughts do matter. They shape how you respond, how you recover, and who you become. And it's okay if you're not there yet. Cravings and food thoughts don't mean you're weak, they mean you're human.
Yep, and the fact that you're listening to this means that you are thinking your way forward and you're not in this alone. We'd love to hear what thoughts help you the most. So leave us a message, a review, or connect with us on Instagram at Real Food Recovery for You or Facebook at Real Food Recovery. And until next time, we're cheering you on. If you want to find out more about us, you can find us at realfoodrecoveryforyou.com. And as I mentioned, our book, Real Food Recovery, If Food Isn't the Answer, What's the Question, is now out on Amazon. Thanks, guys. See you next time. Bye bye.
You.